Good morning, good afternoon, and thanks for attending the Oracle Integration webinar. Thanks for joining our quarterly webcast. I'm Jürgen Kress, part of the Oracle Product Management team and your host today. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available at the Oracle Video Hub, including presentation for download. In today's presentation, Mani Krishnan and Neil Kominsky will present an update of Oracle integration and discuss best practices. Hi, Mani, thanks for joining.
Good morning.
Hi, Neil. Thanks for being with us again.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and thanks, Jürgen, for organizing this.
Objective of the call is to give you an update on Oracle Integration Cloud. SaaS solutions like HCM, CX, and ERP Cloud need to be integrated and customized. Pre-built integration adapters accelerate your SaaS implementation and reduce project risk. Mani Krishnan will present best practices and patterns to conduct HCM. Quick housekeeping. Today's presentation is live and the presentation is being recorded. Feel free to post your questions via the conference Q&A tool in the Zoom console. At the end of the webcast, we will answer them. Slides and the on-demand webcast will be posted at Oracle Video Hub at bit.ly/watchOIC. We will post announcements and links in the conference chat. Please complete the online survey at the end of the webinar. As we will present product roadmap information, please pay attention to the Oracle Safe Harbor statement. Please do tweet and blog about products and services which are available today. Today's agenda, followed by the latest announcement, Neil will highlight the Oracle Integration November release. Mani will discuss best practices, including integration and extension patterns, security, and connectivity. We will wrap up the session with questions and answers. So let's get started. Thanks to all our customers and partners, Oracle was named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, the 5th time in a row. Gartner Peer Insights Oracle Integration is rated 4.4 out of 5 stars. Thanks for your Gartner Peer Insights submission. Please continue to submit them via the Gartner website. Use the documentation and training material to become an integration expert. Based on your role, business user, developer, and admin, we offer Get Started training material like Introduction in Oracle Integration, Basic Competencies for Developers, or Business Patterns. Oracle Integration is part of the Oracle Free Trial Program. Build, test, deploy Oracle integrations, and connect your applications. The trial is valid for up to a month. Who are the integration experts to support your customer projects? System integrators like Accenture implement 8 out of 10 Oracle integration projects. Choose a certified partner with OIC references to replicate your success. At Partner Finder, you search for certified partners by competencies and region. At Cloud Marketplace, you can search for applications based on the Oracle Cloud Platform. For example, Avanco offers a third-party integration adapter for SAP, Amazon, or pre-built recipes from Activate to connect their My Invoices solution. Questions, need support? Collaborate at Oracle Cloud Customer Connect. In discussion forums, you can share your knowledge, engage with industry experts, and network with peers. You can submit innovations and earn personal badges. Last month, we recorded an exciting transformation journey to the cloud. In 2020, Heathrow started the transformation and innovation from Oracle Business Suite to Oracle Cloud ERP. Oracle Integration connects their ERP system with third-party customer implementations. Oracle Digital Assistant innovates their HCM system with an HR chatbot for employees. Watch the webcast to hear from the customer, Mark South and Nick Bieng-Medic. Dan Gert, president of Flexagon, gives insight how they use Flex Deploy, and Alpesh Mistry and Phil Wilkins, the Capgemini team, highlight all the integration details. Join our flight from on-premises to the cloud and watch the webcast on demand. Today's webcast is recorded and will be published at Oracle Video Hub. For regular updates, please subscribe to the Oracle Integration newsletter. The quarterly update from our team includes the latest product information, events, success stories, white papers, and trainings. Latest edition, we highlight the November release, the Gartner Magic Quadrant, customer success stories, the Avanco adapters for Azure, Dynamics, SAP, Google, Salesforce, and the logging analytics series from Neil. So that's part of the newsletter. And with that short introduction, I would like to hand over to you, Neil.
Thank you very, very much, Jürgen. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining. So I'm going to give you a quick update on what's new in the November release. Now, as always, the product focus areas where we have for new features are developer productivity, making it even easier for developers to work with OIC, to be more productive with OIC. Prebuilt connectivity, which covers our adapters, connecting to disparate apps and technologies, cloud and on-premise. Operations reliability and scalability is more about, okay, the hardening of the platform. Real-time visibility is focused on integration insight and what we're planning in that area. So without further ado, let's begin with developer productivity. So the focus areas that we see here for November release is in respect of developer productivity, we've made improvements to the Oracle Assistant. So most of you folks would probably know about the Oracle Assistant. I'll just show you. For those who don't know, let me just get in here and just show it to you that you can see what it is. The Oracle Assistant is a little thing here on the bottom of your screen where you can actually click on this and ask questions here. So how do I import employees? How do I import employees? And then it'll come back and it'll tell me things like, okay, how do you want to import? Where are you coming from? And I'll say EBS, e-business suite. And then it'll tell me, okay, there's a pointer to the documentation in e-business suite for this. And here's a pointer to the relevant HCM documentation as well. So you get the general idea here of what we're doing, just making it very, very easy for you to work with OIC. Now, this started off with basic Q&A, but we are augmenting this going forward as well with, error handling, questions regarding error messages and things like that there. The idea is to allow you as an OIC developer to do as much as possible within OIC itself without having to jump out to a browser to Google some particular condition or error message that you're seeing or going to Oracle support. So over time, we'll be putting more and more collateral into this Oracle Assistant. So making sure that OIC is really the one-stop shop, that you don't need to have to go anywhere else to get the relevant information. Now, if we look at pre-built connectivity, we'll see we've got new adapters there. We've got new functionality for existing adapters, new recipes, etc. And one of the nice things here about the operations reliability and scalability section is in the file server, we're now moving from 10 concurrent connections to 20 concurrent connections. So here we go, developer productivity, 2 times as many answers in there. So we're just pumping more and more collateral into this. And of course, the more you use it, the more it learns and so on. So I really would suggest you getting in there. And if you do have questions, try out the Oracle Assistant and see how far that gets you as well. Yeah. Now with the pre-built connectivity, so the new adapters that we have in the November release are the Sugar CRM adapter, Oracle Hospitality adapter, and the eBay Marketplace adapter. So of course, the eBay Marketplace adapter is more in this kind of e-commerce style use cases. Oracle Hospitality adapter, of course, is for Opera, and is for Opera, the cloud version of Oracle Hospitality, also known as Opera. And of course, with this adapter, there are many use cases involved there. For example, integration with ERP for billing, integration with HCM for employee data, integration with Salesforce or other CRMs for customer management and things like that. Now, Sugar CRM, of course, is a very popular CRM as well. Now, I've done a couple of blog posts on how to actually integrate with Sugar CRM using our REST adapter. But our engineers have created a dedicated adapter for Sugar CRM, making it even easier for you to do so. Now we have some new features to existing adapters, such as the Salesforce adapter here, support for change data capture support. So you can well imagine within Salesforce, something changes there, and the CDC component there just pushes a message to OIC, and OIC kicks off the relevant integration there. We've got some the Jira adapter security enhancements there, as you can see. Simplified connection definition when we're dealing with SAP S/4HANA, and the Zendesk is now supporting additional operation beyond CRUD. Now, regarding the connectivity agent, you will see that the connectivity agent for this release has to run on JDK 11. So if you try to run it on JDK 8, you'll get an error message. So just install JDK 11, everything is okay there. Yeah. So we've a lot of pre-built integrations like these recipes. I'll show you those later. Now, the pre-built connectivity here, the Salesforce change data capture support. So of course, you've got your change data capture events in Salesforce. So you're receiving near real-time changes of Salesforce records, and you need to synchronize them with an external data store. So this change data capture makes it even, you're even quicker with such things here because you're publishing, or Salesforce is publishing these change events, as opposed to you having an integration that polls Salesforce for changes, for example. And of course, these changes include things like creation of a new record, updates to existing, deletion, undelete, and so on. So if you want more information on how this actually works, like if you're a developer and your customer has integrations with Salesforce via OIC, you can check out the Salesforce CDC guide to see how this actually works. And then, of course, our Salesforce adapter documentation has been updated to cover this as well. Now, I was going to show you a demo of this, but the demo was rather basic because I do something in Salesforce and you see another system being upgraded and you don't see anything, or updated, you don't see anything happening under the hood. But a typical example could be, if there's a new opportunity, if it's above 50K, you want to send a notification maybe to the sales account manager or something like that. And if an opportunity is closed or won, maybe send a notification to the customer, send a notification to the sales manager, and go ahead and create that order in Fusion ERP. So this just kind of, just showing you how such a thing works. You've got your CDC selected entities. Here we're doing this on opportunity. So we're doing change data capture on an opportunity. There has been something, it's either create or change. Okay, we have a change. The trigger is here for the new, for the new opportunity. We received a new opportunity. If it's greater than 50K, we notify the user. And then we've the other one here when we receive change opportunity closed won. So now it's an opportunity to order. We're going to create the order in ERP and notify the user, which could be, of course, the sales account manager or the salesperson for that. Now, the third-party adapter is Sugar CRM. So this is a leading app in the CRM space, and it's very, very easy to use. I've got a trial account on it and tried it out. Very, very simple to use. And as I say, we could integrate with Sugar CRM up to now with via our REST adapter. But of course, the dedicated Sugar CRM adapter makes this much, much more user-friendly. And so, of course, we're supporting now outbound invoke, and then trigger is on the roadmap. So with this one here, it's very easy to sync stuff with Sugar CRM. And then, of course, going forward, as I say, this trigger pattern will be supported. Something changes in Sugar CRM, we pick up that change and update downstream systems. So the adapter support for create, retrieve, update, delete against the selected module. And we support here using OAuth for authentication there. Now, here are some of the new recipes. Now, there's a listener, and as I say, you will be getting this PowerPoint later. As you can see, the whole idea behind the recipes is to give you an out-of-the-box best practice implementation of a certain integration use case between certain apps. For example, between ServiceNow and DocuSign, Marketo, Slack, Salesforce, SurveyMonkey, or whatever. So it's always very good if you are tasked with creating an integration, just check whether there's a recipe already out there for that particular use case, or maybe for a related use case. So you could use the recipe really as the basis for your further development then as well. So these are just some of the new recipes that have been released for November. And okay, that's just another one here showing an example of what we can do with Sugar CRM. Syncing contacts between ERP Cloud and Sugar CRM. So, you probably know these use cases yourself, but this is just showing you an example of what we can do with this. Now, last but not least, because I want to leave enough time for Manny to go through the deep dive on HCM integration. Oracle is a leader, of course, in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And one of the main things that keeps us up there as a leader is the reviews from you as our customers. So I would just ask you to take the 10 minutes or whatever it takes to do one of these Gartner peer reviews for us. So without further ado, I'll pass back to Jürgen, who's going to pass it on to Manny. Is that correct, Jürgen?
Manny, you are part of the A team who is helping our key customers, and you gain a lot of experience from customer projects which you will provide us today. So thank you for supporting our customer base, and thanks for your wonderful collaboration with the A team.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, Jürgen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Mani Krishnan. I'm a cloud solutions architect with the Oracle A team, and in this session, I'll be presenting about the present patterns and best practices for HCM integrations and extensions using Integration Cloud. A bit more info about myself. I'm part of the A team Cloud Solutions Architect. A team collaborates with product development, customer success, sales, and support organizations across the globe to help our customers realize their cloud strategies. And I lead A team's efforts in helping SaaS customers leverage OCA capabilities using PaaS and hybrid SaaS services. Here is a link to A team Chronicles, where you can find a lot of useful blogs about Oracle Cloud. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Here are the topics covered in this session. We'll start with integration patterns. We'll delve into loading and extracting HCM data using Integration Cloud. Then we'll look at extension patterns, which are about extending HCM using Visual Builder or integration process. We'll move on to security, which is about securing HCM integrations and extensions. Then finally, we'll look at connectivity alternatives for HCM and OIC. HCM integration patterns. So loading data into HCM, there are a couple of options. We'll start with the HCM Data Loader. HCM Data Loader is for bulk data loaded in batches. It is optimized for large quantities of data. It is configurable, which is an important point. You can, for example, control audit generation while loading data using HDL. You can suppress events in atom feeds while loading bulk data, and there are many more options. And HDL provides better tracking of uploads through files. And here is a simple visual representation of this pattern. You might start with a CSV file or a HDL DAT file. In OIC, you might convert the CSV file into a HDL formatted file, and then post the file to UCM, then trigger the HDL job, and optionally track the job until completion. The other way to load data into HCM is using REST API. It is for synchronous update to HCM, meant for sporadic on-demand updates, and typically for web applications and event-based applications. And here are a couple of ways you can use REST API. You can fetch small quantities of data from a source application in OIC, and then enrich and transform the data and post it back to HCM using REST API. You might also build a visual application using Visual Builder. Then users can make updates to the web application, which are then posted to HCM using REST API. Let's move on to extracts. There are a couple of ways to extract data from HCM Cloud. HCM extracts are for bulk download of HCM objects. HCM extracts are optimized for extracting large quantities of data. HCM extracts are configurable. For example, you can define the number of threads for processing. I can also extract only the changes since the last run. And HCM extracts support multiple output formats using BI Publisher that comes with HCM Cloud. And here is a simple visual on how to use HCM extracts with OIC. You can trigger an extract using Flow Action Service in HCM. Through HCM adapter, you might poll for files in UCM. And if there are files, extract files available in UCM, You might upload it to a FTP location, or you might actually parse through the contents of the file and update another application. The other way to extract data or get data from HCM Cloud is REST API. There are a limited number of records per REST API call that you should watch for. So the REST API is meant for application extensions and integrations that can support pagination, and those need only small quantities of data. And here is a visual representation on how to use REST API for extracting data. You might build a web application using Visual Builder, which can fetch data from HCM and display it for users. Another common pattern is to poll for new hires using Atom feeds in HCM. And for every new hire, enrich the data by getting more information from HCM Cloud using REST API, the worker REST API, and then post the information to another application, typically an on-premise IDP with the new hire information. So let's compare batch integrations with synchronous integrations. Batch integrations are for regular synchronization between applications. We are talking about large quantities of data being synchronized between enterprise applications and HCM, whereas synchronous integrations are meant for web and event-based applications. Batch integrations are using file-based exports and imports, whereas the synchronous integrations are for REST API and or with REST API and JSON payload. For batch integrations, watch for OIC file size limits so that you don't run into one. And for synchronous integrations, be aware of the API limits. And the completion times for batch integrations are dependent on HCM sizing, right? Whereas for synchronous integrations, the API throughput is dependent on sizing of the HCM instance. So here are some best practices for integration from our experience. Number one, we touched upon this: estimate the file sizes so that you don't run into any file size limits. A couple of numbers that come to my memory. Number one, there's a 10 MB limit on reading and processing files from an FTP location. And then there is a 1 GB limit on downloading files into a staging folder and processing it from there. So be aware of these limits, estimate your file sizes so that you don't run into these limits in production. Plan for REST API elements. The integrations and extensions should be able to paginate through the records coming from REST API so that we can keep polling until there are no more records. Benchmark the REST API, especially for heavy API use. There is no upper limit for the REST API defined, right? It really depends on the type of payload and your particular HCM environment. So if you're planning to use REST API heavily, benchmark your environment and understand it. Along the same lines, understand the times for extracts and the HTL processing in your environment so that it improves the predictability for your go live and after go live. This is something we see often, right? Make sure that there is no call to get a JOT or SAML token for every invocation to an API. It'll degrade performance and it is unnecessary, right? So use long living tokens, for example, tokens those are valid for an hour. And that way there are fewer calls to an IDP to get a token while you're making calls to a REST API. So there is an option to include business object in Atom feeds in HCM adapter. And we have seen this from a few customers. This option results in REST API calls to worker REST API under the hood. And it is expected that when this option is chosen, it'll take longer to complete polling Atom feed. So just keep that in mind. You have to count in the time for those additional worker API calls. Use only the recommended HCM tools. For example, use only HCM extracts. Do not use BIP queries for HCM. That's as an example. And then finally, this is something I've seen often. Try to avoid adapter timeout issues. This is especially true for database procedures, stored procedures being invoked through DB adapter. You might use fire and forget pattern, right? So fire the stored procedure through DB adapter return, and then run another job that polls for completion of the job, completion of the procedure, and then takes subsequent actions. Let's move on to HCM extension patterns. So there can be two types of extensions in my mind. Web extensions. These can be standalone web applications, or these can be extensions to HCM Cloud embedded in HCM. In either case, they can use REST API to access and modify HCM data. There can also be approval extensions. So the approval extensions can be a simple case of embedding a BPM workspace or OIC process workspace just for ease of use. Or the extension can extend existing HCM approvals and also embed the workspace in HCM. In both cases, they can use BPM REST API provided with HCM or HCM REST API to access tasks and to access or modify HCM data. So let's take a closer look at these. We'll start with the HCM extension, web extensions. So web extensions can be standalone web applications. Examples are mashups or portals, typically built using Visual Builder. These are federated with an enterprise IDP if there is one. And here is a simple visual representation of this pattern. And then the other type is the embedded web extensions. These are for extending HCM features. The web pages in this case are embedded in HCM using Page Composer, typically built using Visual Builder. And in this case, these pages are federated with the HCM Cloud as an IDP in order to ensure that the users are logged into HCM before they can see these pages. And here is a visual about this pattern. Let's move on to extensions to approvals. We'll start with a summary of the HCM approval features. HCM Cloud provides out-of-box approvals for most transactions, and these approvals are good and they work for most customers. And the rules of these approvals can be modified, or you can also add new rules. However, the out-of-box approvals don't permit complex rules, and they also do not allow something like a REST API call to get additional criteria from external applications to help with the approval. That brings us to the extensions for approvals. There are a couple of ways to extend approvals. One is you take the OIC process workspace and then embed it into HCM using Page Composer. This is only for ease of use. In this case, the HCM users can look at their out-of-box approval tasks from HCM and also approval tasks coming from OIC process in HCM Cloud side by side. And the approvals in OIC don't necessarily have to be related to HCM. The next type is actually extending the out-of-box approvals in HCM using OIC process. And in this case, as in the previous pattern, the process workspace is embedded in HCM using Page Composer, but also the approval in HCM is also extended using OIC process using HCM REST API or BPM REST API. So we're going to look at an example on how to do this in the next slide. So here is an example. Let's assume that the use case is for time card approval. The time cards for contingent workers must be approved by external approvers, and the external approvers don't have access to HCM Cloud. They are outside the organization. But these external approvers can be granted access to OIC process workspace. That's a use case. So in this case, the approvals in HCM, the approval tasks are sent to a specific HCM approval group for contingent workers. There is an OIC integration, a scheduled integration that queries for pending tasks for that approval group. And when there are tasks pending, it launches a OIC process. The OIC process in turn creates tasks accessible to the external approvers. And the external approvers can approve or reject. When they make a decision to approve or reject, that decision is posted back to HCM Cloud using BPM REST API. Now, you can also do other things in OIC process, obviously, right? So in this example, upon approval of the time card, there can be an invoice that can be generated from OIC and posted back to ERP Cloud using REST API. So that concludes the extensions, and we'll move on to integration and extension security. So security for HCM and OIC at a high level. We'll start with federation. HCM supports federation with both IDCS and OCI identity domains, which are relatively new for most customers. But for the purposes of this presentation, they are pretty much the same in terms of their capabilities. Authentication, there are a few alternatives. OAuth is the top, basic auth. Rarely, SAML tokens can also be used for authentication. Authorization for HCM is using role-based access control. And there are also data roles. Those are specific to HCM. Let's take a closer look at identity federation. HCM Cloud supports SAML to federation. So basically, it can allow any SAML-based provider as an IDP or SP, identity provider or service provider. So every OIC instance is associated with the IDCS instance, and this IDCS instance can also be federated with the HCM. There can also be needs to synchronize users and roles in HCM to IDCS groups and users. There are a few alternatives to do that. There is something called IDCS auth-sync. You can refer to documentation on how this works, which can synchronize all groups and users between IDCS and Fusion. Both Fusion, HCM, and IDCS provides SCIM API, and customers can build their own jobs to selectively synchronize roles and users between the two. There's also an out-of-box ESS job in HCM that can do the synchronization. So those are some alternatives. So let's look at the federation topology. OCI comes pre-federated with an IDCS instance. You might call that as a primary IDCS. And that IDCS instance is meant only for OCI administrative users. So this IDCS is not meant for HCM users. And then for every HCM instance, there is an associated IDCS instance, right? And this HCM instance is federated with the corresponding IDCS instance. So this helps isolating HCM users for a particular environment to their dedicated IDCS instance. There is no chances of mixing users between environments. There are also no chances of mixing HCM users with OCI administrative users. Let's look at authentication. OAuth is the recommended way to authenticate with HCM Cloud. OAuth is typically using JOT tokens. And OAuth the JOT tokens can be generated from OAuth in IDCS or identity domains. And here is a simple visual representation of this flow. A two-legged OAuth flow where OIC requests for tokens from IDCS and posts them to HCM. There is also a configuration step, which is to import the token signing certificate from IDCS into HCM. This is a one-time task. A less preferred approach is basic authentication. It is still used by a lot of customers. The basic authentication is using username and password. Both JOT tokens and the usernames are tied to principals within HCM, and these principals have roles associated with them. So just because there is a user doesn't mean the user will have access to anything without appropriate roles are assigned to them or function privileges are assigned to them. Then there are SAML tokens. SAML is used in the background for web extensions, browser-based extensions or applications. It is less common for API authentication. It is supported for API authentication, but it is not common with HCM REST API. And here is a simple flow for basic authentication. And then let's move on to authorization. HCM uses role-based access control for authorization. There are specific functional privileges for REST API access. These are documented. You can look up the specific HCM REST API and the associated function privileges. There are also seeded job roles. Those come pre-assigned with these function privileges. You can again look up documentation for the particular seeded job roles. You can also define your own custom job role in HCM with the REST API function privilege. And here is a graphic that shows the types of roles in HCM, how they are related and how they inherit each other. There's also a concept of data role that is specific to HCM. So data roles basically combine job role and HCM security profile to limit access to data, right? So the HCM security profiles basically limit access by hierarchy, org structure, or other criteria. So the best practice here is to ensure that each account used for integration is allowed to access only the relevant data and nothing beyond. And there are other best practices. Use, if possible, separate system accounts for different integration use cases. Do not use one single account for everything. And also don't have a single account with vast access. And there's also the concept of LBAC that is also related to role-based access control. LBAC, in a nutshell, allows defining IP addresses or IP ranges and tie them to roles. And so that only roles, those are non-public, are controlled by this whitelist. So that is LBAC. We'll take a closer look at LBAC in subsequent slides. So that concludes the authorization, and we'll move on to connectivity patterns. So here are the connectivity alternatives. This is default for all customers accessing HCM and OIC over the internet. Customers can also apply access restrictions in the network. And then a more sophisticated alternative is to access HCM and OIC over either Fast Connect or VPN. And we'll take a closer look at each of these alternatives. We'll start with accessing HCM and OIC over internet. This is typical for most customers, and HCM Cloud is by default accessed through Akamai as CDN. And here is a simple visual on how this works. Both HCM and OIC are typically located in a controlled part of Oracle infrastructure called services network. So any traffic from OIC to HCM Cloud, especially for HCM Cloud instances in OCI, automatically bypass Akamai as a default today. So if you have your HCM instance in OCI and OIC instances are also in OCI, the traffic will bypass Akamai. For classic instances, the instances those are located in classic data centers, customers can request the bypass to be enabled. So with the bypass enabled, the OIC to HCM connections are over Oracle's backbone network, and there can be improvement in the response time for REST API integration. So look at restricted access to HCM or OIC. There is a location-based access control for HCM to enforce network restrictions, and OIC supports allow listing, and you can use both. In order to whitelist the connections between Oracle Cloud services, you can use IP ranges provided by Oracle, and Oracle Cloud publishes IP ranges for each region. You can just note down those ranges and apply it to your allow list or the LBAC list of IP addresses. LBAC is we touched upon this before. LBAC is enforced in conjunction with RBAC. There's concept of public roles and then non-public roles, and the list of IP addresses is applicable to all non-public roles in HCM. So LBAC allows listing public IP addresses or CIDR range of IP addresses. In OIC, you can do the same. You can list the public IP addresses in the allow list, CIDR ranges. But the key differences in OIC, you can also list customers' VCNs using the VCN OSITs. And here's a visual representation of how this works. Then finally, accessing HCM over Fast Connect or VPN. So we'll start with a summary of what Fast Connect is. Fast Connect is basically a dedicated connection or a connection through a partner. Fast Connect provides a predictable bandwidth over public or private peering. Public peering is basically accessing Oracle Cloud services using public IP addresses through a dedicated connection, whereas private peering is extending customers' on-premise networks into OCI and accessing services privately through private peering. Here is a visual that shows how these work. The private pairing over Fast Connect is applicable only to HCM instances in OCI. Private pairing cannot be used with the HCM instances in classic regions. So there's also an option to use VPN. For classic HCM instances, there is a dedicated VPN service that can be purchased. But for OIC as well as the HCM instances in the OCI regions, you can use VPN Connect and couple it with Service Gateway to access both services. The key difference is, VPN service, there is a technology limitation, right? Usually, regardless the connection bandwidth, the bandwidth of VPN is limited to under 1 gigabits. So if that doesn't work, you might want to look at Fast Connect private peering. So that concludes my presentation. I'm open for questions, Jürgen.
Mani, that is wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks for the deep technical presentation. Before we come to the questions and answers, I would like to present the resources. If you have questions for Mani and the team, you can post them anytime in the Q&A. So for more information, please visit the Oracle Integration website and make use of the documentation and Video Hub. Today's webcast is recorded and will be available at Oracle Video Hub, including the presentation. At the documentation website, you can also find Get Started guides for hands-on training. For more information, make sure you visit the A-Team Oracle blog. Mani is from the A-Team, and there you can find a lot of best practices also for ERP and CX integration. And of course, visit the integration blog. We publish a monthly newsletter for you as a customer. Please subscribe to get the latest updates and invitations for the next webcast. If you would like to try it, Oracle integration is part of the free trial, and you can get started for 30 days and make use of the training material and documentation. With that, we would like to come to the questions and answers. So first question is from Katie. She would like to know, Neil, if she can integrate Oracle Business Suite with OIC.
Okay, just to let you know, everybody, that of course we have a very rich e-business suite adapter within OIC. So this allows us access to all of the public APIs, gateways, etc., that EBS provides. So many use cases have been documented. We also have recipes. So please look and see which resources we already have for that. Thank you.
Great, Neil. So Oracle has an on-premise agent that allows you to connect Oracle applications and also custom applications that you run in your own data center.
Things like, there was a question there about the RabbitMQ. How do I integrate with RabbitMQ? Now, of course, there are ways like this is, I think RabbitMQ, if I'm not mistaken, we're looking here at a AMQP adapter. Now, we don't have a RabbitMQ adapter, we don't have an AMQP adapter, but our partner Advantco has such. So we have a partner Advantco who has created, I think, about 5 adapters for OIC, and one of those is the AMQP adapter, and that could be used for RabbitMQ. So it's just a case, folks. We'll also send out a link to this to a page describing what Advantco was offering. So it's just a case we have this partner also providing these adapters. Now, the one caveat here is these adapters are cost inflicting, as they say in Germany, which means they have a price. So that's something you'd have to take up with Advantco. Okay, Jürgen?
Mani, there are a couple of questions around HCM. For example, Dale would like to know, you show HCM extracts and REST APIs to get data out of HCM. Are you looking to adding webhooks for publishing data out, both HCM or other Oracle SaaS?
Nothing that I'm aware of. I was actually typing a response for that. Yeah, the only way to get data out of HCM as events is Atom feed today. There are no plans for webhooks at this time. I can't rule out any future plans, but this is really a question for HCM product management. But
okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not aware of any plans.
And Gaurav would like to know if you can extract data from HCM via an FTP server.
Of course, that is one of the primary means of integrating with HCM. HCM extracts can transfer files to FTP locations as well, or you can also process the files through OIC, right? So and the same thing with HTL. You can post files into an FTP location, and OIC can pick it up, process it, and then send it over to HCM.
Okay, great, thanks. And maybe you can give some insights and elaborate on the pattern and use cases for batch and scheduled versus live and synchronous integration.
Customers trying to use REST API for bulk integration, and they run into problems in production, right? So when you do a heavy volume integration, you always want to go with HTL and not use REST API. Otherwise, you'll end up having performance problems. So that's the reason for that slide. But realistically, there can be a combination of this, right? You might have a batch integration in which there may be some minimal calls to REST API to enrich data. But watch out. You don't want your high volume uploads to be done through REST API.
Okay. Many people would like to know if there's training material for HCM integration and more best practice material.
Cloud Customer Connect has a section for HCM integration. Look it up. There are a lot of pre-built OIC templates posted there. There are also nice PDF documents with the diagrams, the patterns documented for HCM.
Great, thank you.
That should be the location, and check Cloud Customer Connect for any future updates as well.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you to the whole team for answering many questions also offline. I think we completed most of the questions. If there are open questions, feel free to post them at Cloud Customer Connect or reach out to the speaker team, to Neil Kominski, Mani Krishnan, or myself. And big thanks also to Paulo, to Nathan, Michael, and everybody helping to answer all the questions.
Thank you for attending today's webcast. Tune in our next webcast, March 17th, 2022. Thanks and Merry Christmas.